Hello orchid lovers around the world, and in today's video, oh dear, this doesn't look good. I recently found this orchid lying in my garden, and it's in very poor condition. The plant is critical, mainly because of severe problems at its base and root system. The biggest concern is the dark, almost black spot at the crown. This is a clear sign of crown rot, or possibly a fungal or bacterial infection. The rot is already spreading into the main leaf. You can see the yellowing and those dark necrotic patches right where the leaf attaches. And the roots, well, many are shriveled, dry, and brown. Most of them are already dead or severely dehydrated, which means the root system has almost completely failed. To start, we need to immediately remove the orchid from its old pot, because leaving it in there will only make things worse. As we carefully lift it out, you can already see how badly damaged the root system is. Most of the roots are dry, brown, and lifeless. Let's be honest, there isn't much here that's truly salvageable. Maybe just a small section of healthier tissue that still has some hope. But that's okay, because even with just a little life left, orchids can surprise us with their resilience. So first, grab yourself a clean, sterilized pair of scissors or pruning shears. This is important because we don't want to introduce any more bacteria or fungus into an already weak plant. Now, we're going to go straight in and cut away the upper part of the orchid, along with the few roots that are still attached. When you look closely, you'll notice some of these roots still have a bit of structure. They may even look like they're holding on just slightly. But here's the truth. That tiny bit of life isn't enough to support the plant in the long run. It may feel harsh to cut away something that looks almost okay, but leaving damaged roots and tissue behind will only drag the plant down. They act like dead weight and can even spread rot further. So what we're really doing here is setting the orchid free from everything that no longer serves it. By trimming away the dead, the weak, and the infected tissue, we allow the plant to redirect all its energy into the small, healthy parts that still remain. Think of it like a reset button. Yes, the orchid will look smaller and a little vulnerable after this step, but don't worry. Orchids are tough survivors, and with the right care, even the tiniest piece of healthy tissue can grow back stronger than before. Now, after trimming, we'll need to give the plant a gentle wash with a soft water spray. This helps rinse away any loose debris, bits of old media, and most importantly, it washes off lingering bacteria or fungal spores that might still be clinging to the surface. Make sure the spray is light. We're not blasting the orchid with pressure, just enough to refresh it and clean the remaining tissue. Focus on the crown and roots, because these areas are most vulnerable and need to be completely free from infection. This step may look simple, but it's actually very important. By starting with a clean orchid, we're giving our plant a fresh environment, free of anything that could slow down its recovery. Before we continue any further, let's take a moment to clean up the plant properly. At this stage, it's very important to make sure the orchid stays moist, but not soaking wet. If we leave it dripping with too much water, the excess moisture can easily invite more rot or fungal issues, and that's the last thing this fragile plant needs. On the other hand, if we let it dry out completely, the remaining tissue will struggle to recover and could collapse. So what we're aiming for here is balance. A light, even mist, or a gentle wipe with a damp cloth. Now, prepare a clean container and fill it with fresh water. Make sure the water you use is safe. Filtered, rainwater, or boiled in cooled water works best, because we don't want to add any hidden minerals or chemicals that could stress the plant. Next, add in 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Baking soda acts as a mild, natural antifungal treatment, helping to neutralize any lingering bacteria or fungal spores on the orchid. Stir the mixture well, so it dissolves completely and creates an even solution. After that, we're going to place the orchid directly into the container, making sure the entire plant is fully submerged. This allows every surface, roots, crown, and even the base of the leaves to get the treatment it needs. We'll leave the plant in this bath for around 30 minutes, giving the solution enough time to gently disinfect without causing any harm to the delicate tissue. Now, grab yourself a fresh banana and peel it carefully. What we actually need here is not the fruit itself, but the skin. As for the banana inside, you can enjoy it as a light snack while we work. Nothing goes to waste here. Next, take the banana peel and cut it into small, manageable pieces. The smaller the pieces, the easier it will be for them to break down later, releasing their natural nutrients into the mixture. Banana peel is rich in potassium and phosphorus, both of which are wonderful for supporting healthy root growth and stronger leaves. Once you've finished cutting, gather all the pieces and place them into a clean container. This will be the base of the natural solution we're preparing to help our orchid recover. Next, we're going to add in 2 teaspoons of rice. Rice is a great choice here because when it soaks, it releases beneficial starches and trace minerals that can provide a gentle energy boost for the orchid. After adding the rice, fill the container with clean water, just enough to fully cover both the rice and the banana peel pieces. Then, give the mixture a really good stir, making sure everything blends together nicely. Once that's done, close the lid tightly and let the container sit for about 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, carefully take the plant out of the mixture and give it a quick inspection. Look closely at the leaves, the crown, and especially the roots. What you're checking for here is whether the plant looks a little fresher and cleaner, and that there are no new signs of rot or softening. Now, let's move on to the solution. First, give it one good stir to make sure everything is evenly blended and coated. This helps release the nutrients fully into the water, so the mixture is nice and balanced. Next, we'll filter out all the solid compounds that cannot break down completely. You can use a fine mesh strainer, a piece of clean cloth, or even a coffee filter. Anything that allows the liquid to pass through while keeping behind the bigger bits of banana peel and rice. What we're left with is a clear, nutrient-rich liquid, gentle enough for orchids, and ready to be used in the next step of our rescue process. You want to use a clean tissue, dip it into the solution, and make sure it soaks up enough liquid so it's fully saturated. This way, the tissue carries just the right amount of moisture and nutrients, ready to transfer onto the leaves. Now, when you begin brushing, do it gently. Start from the base of the leaf and slowly move toward the tip, following the natural lines of the orchid surface. This isn't just for cleaning dust and dirt. It's also about removing any tiny pests or fungal spores that may be clinging there. Think of it as giving your orchid a spa treatment. Be sure to cover both sides, the upper side for its shine and health, and the underside, because that's where mites and other hidden problems like to settle. Once that's done, you'll want to place the orchid directly into the container of solution, but here's something very important to remember. Only the roots should be submerged, while the crown and leaves must stay completely above the liquid. If water gets into the crown, it can lead to rot, and that's the last thing we want for a recovering orchid. After 20 minutes, it's time to carefully lift the orchid out of the solution. Hold it gently by the base and let the excess liquid drip away. Now, before moving on, give the plant a quick but thorough inspection. Look closely at the roots. They should appear fresher, firmer, and slightly plumper compared to before the soak. Now, we'll apply a little cinnamon powder to the trimmed areas of the plant. And yes, we're talking about the same cinnamon you may already have in your kitchen. Cinnamon works as a natural antifungal and antibacterial treatment, helping to seal those freshly cut spots and protect them from infection. To do this properly, take a small, clean paintbrush, dip it lightly into the powder, and gently dab it only on the areas where you've trimmed or removed damaged roots. Be precise, we don't need to cover the entire plant, just the open wounds. Think of this step like putting a bandage on the orchid. It keeps the vulnerable areas safe while the plant heals and focuses on new growth. After a few days, those treated spots will dry and seal up, reducing the risk of rot or further damage. After you're done, the next step is to prepare a fresh pot filled with pine bark. Pine bark is one of the best choices for orchids because it keeps the roots airy and allows water to drain freely, just like in their natural habitat where they cling to trees. Now, before we use it, we need to give the bark a good soak. Pour clean water right into the pot, making sure the bark is fully covered. Fresh pine bark is often very dry and can actually repel water at first. So by soaking it, we're allowing it to soften up and become more absorbent. We'll let the bark sit and soak for a full day. This way, it'll be ready to hold just the right amount of moisture without drowning the roots. After one full day, the bark is ready. So let's move our orchid into its new pot. Always start with a pot that has a clear drainage hole. This is very important because orchids never like sitting in water. Good drainage keeps the roots healthy and prevents rot. Now, before we start filling the bark, we need to make sure the orchid is properly secured. For this, we'll use a metal base or a clamp-like support to hold the plant in position. Place the metal base inside the pot. Press it down firmly so it won't shift, and this will act as a stable anchor. Next, carefully position your orchid in the center of the pot. Adjust it so the plant is upright. Then use the clamp to gently hold it in place. The idea here is to make sure the orchid doesn't wobble or fall over while we're adding the bark. Securing it now will help the roots establish themselves in their new home without stress or movement. Now, we'll begin filling the pot with pine bark. Start by adding the bark slowly, one handful at a time, gently dropping it around the roots. Make sure the orchid stays in the center, upright and steady, while the bark settles into the spaces around it. As you add more bark, lightly tap the sides of the pot. This helps the pieces fall into place and fill in any gaps around the roots. Avoid pressing the bark down too tightly. Orchids love air circulation around their roots, so we want the pot to be snug but still breathable. Continue filling until the bark reaches just below the rim of the pot, leaving a little space at the top for watering. By the time you're done, the orchid should feel secure in its new home. Not loose, not buried, but comfortably supported by the bark all around it. And finally, we're going to cover the very top layer with moss. Spread it gently across the surface, just enough to create a light blanket over the bark. The moss acts like a natural shield, helping to hold in moisture, while also giving the orchid a softer, more natural environment, almost like how it would grow in the wild. Be careful not to pack the moss too tightly. We want the roots to breathe. The goal is simply to keep the surface from drying out too quickly, while still allowing air and light to move freely through the pot. After 3 weeks, you should begin to notice some encouraging signs from your orchid. At this stage, the plant is still adjusting to its new environment. But if the care steps have been followed, the difference will be clear. Look closely at the roots. You may see tiny new green or silvery white tips beginning to form. These are fresh growth points, a very good sign that the orchid is settling in. The existing roots should appear firmer and healthier compared to before. No longer mushy or dark, but strong and flexible. The leaves may also show improvement, becoming more upright and slightly firmer to the touch. Any dull or tired look will begin to fade, replaced by a brighter, more vibrant green. This means the orchid is regaining energy and photosynthesizing effectively again. If you're lucky, you might even spot the beginnings of a small new leaf at the crown. It won't be large yet, but even the tiniest new growth shows the plant is alive, active, and on the path to recovery. But remember, routine care is just as important as the rescue steps themselves. Orchids are living beings. They don't heal overnight. They recover slowly and gracefully when we stay patient and consistent. Think of routine care as a rhythm, a weekly habit that keeps the plant stable, while it gathers strength to grow. Start with the leaves. Once a week, use a clean tissue or cloth dipped in your solution, and gently wipe them down from base to tip. This not only removes dust, but also clears away pests or fungal spores hiding on the surface, letting the orchid breathe better and photosynthesize more efficiently. Next, check the roots. Orchids don't like being constantly wet, so always feel the bark first. If it still feels damp, wait a little longer. If it's nearly dry, then it's time to water. A good method is to soak the pot for about 10 to 15 minutes, then let the excess drain completely. This way, the roots get hydrated without sitting in water, which is the fastest way to cause rot. Airflow is another important part of the routine. Keep your orchid in a spot where fresh air can move gently around the leaves and crown. Good airflow prevents excess moisture from turning into mold or fungus, and it mimics the breezes orchids would feel in their natural home high on tree branches. And of course, don't forget light. Place your orchid in a bright location with indirect sunlight. Not direct harsh rays that can burn the leaves, but enough light to fuel new growth. Finally, after 14 days, you'll begin to see the very first signs of recovery. It might not look dramatic at first, but these small changes are proof that the orchid is responding to your care. Look closely at the roots. Some of them may appear firmer and a little plumper than before. If you've been following the watering routine, you might even notice tiny new tips forming. Those bright green points are fresh root growth, and they're the clear sign that the plant is alive and moving forward. The leaves may also show subtle improvements. Instead of feeling limp or wrinkled, they start to regain a slight firmness. The color may shift from a dull tone back toward a healthier, richer green. You may even notice the crown, the center of the orchid, beginning to tighten up, showing that the plant is slowly regaining strength. At this stage, patience is key. 14 days is just the beginning. The plant is still fragile and needs steady support. Keep up with your routine of cleaning the leaves, checking the moisture level of the bark, and making sure it stays in a spot with gentle airflow and indirect light. These little signs of life, though small, are the foundation of a full recovery. With time and consistent care, This orchid will continue to strengthen and eventually reward you with healthy growth and blooms. And there you have it, another orchid rescue wrapped up. From weak roots and tired leaves to fresh growth and a second chance at life. It's all thanks to patience, routine care, and a little bit of love for these incredible plants. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a like. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next orchid care journey. Share this with other orchid lovers too. You never know who might need the extra guidance. Thank you for watching. Until next time, keep caring, keep growing, and let your orchids bloom with you.